Thank you for joining us. With us is Gina Patel, the Vice President of Customer Success at SensorTower. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining us. Why don't we just dive into our questions and tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, and how you got to where you are.
Yeah, so how did I get to this place? I have been in the CS space for since 2011. So many would say I'm one of the pioneers of customer success. I started as a senior customer success manager at a tech company. My background was in consulting, so I loved the fact that I was taking this new role in bridging the gaps for customers using a software solution. And then since then, I've learned a lot of the CS best practices, templates, tools, and techniques for how to best give a customer, the optimal experience they can with a software solution. Having worked for 3 tech companies, I feel like there is a very systematic process to that. And moved to LA from DC, which is where I started in the CS space. And I found it being very interesting being in Los Angeles, but became a manager of a team of CS customer success managers here in LA. And then got this great opportunity to take on a VP role. Over the past 10 years, I've been in the VP space for 3 years now. I've been ready for it for a while. And I think that what I've been able to accomplish as a VP has been a reflection of that.
Well, that's great. Well, why don't we talk more about that? What did you do your first 100 days in this role, and what would you recommend everybody does if they're given this opportunity?
Yeah, so one of the first things I did, this company that I worked for, Pathmatics, which got acquired by SensorTower, was a 60-person company, probably about $20 million in revenue with about 6 CSMs. So I came in, they had told me that there was a lot of people management issues. So I knew that that's what I was going into, and that, there was not a lot of certain very, what I would consider essential things that you would do with a customer, like a business review. They weren't being done, and none of our CSMs were being held accountable. So I came in and I just observed. I spent solid. I wish I observed more, but in those 100 days, I would say the first 90 days, I tried to listen and observe more than anything else before I decided to make any kind of organizational changes. Hiring needs, determining what the hiring needs are, where there were gaps with the department.
That's awesome. I think that's really great, really great way to approach it, and a good recommendation for everybody to take. Now you're past your first 100 days. What are you currently doing for your strategy, and what is the future strategy in store?
Yeah, so working for a startup, this acquisition happened 5 months after I started Pathmatics, and we got acquired by a company of 120 people, about $30 million in revenue. So now, we've merged as one. I took over as VP of customer success. They had someone in place, but someone with not as much experience as myself. And again, it was identifying that they really had no true CS team in my mind. They had an account management team that essentially, after training and onboarding with a customer that first 90 days, they were responsible for upselling and retaining customers. But there was no true framework in place. So, no one, a kickoff call was just getting on a phone with a customer and not actually having a formal deck which outlined goals and objectives. There were no business reviews enforced. So even with this new company we were just acquired by, they weren't really doing business reviews. So identifying what those business reviews should entail, and then how often we should have them, and when do we have that renewal discussion. We had value stories. So one of my biggest things is I've always worked, the past 3 companies have been data solutions companies. So it's all about data insights. Most people, when the economy, when budgets get cut and companies are going through hardships, we're one of the first solutions to go. We're not a lights on kind of solution. So my whole thing is, how do we continue to drive value for our customer? And just showing them how to use our solution and get information from it is not going to ensure that renewal. So it's helping them understand value success stories, macro goals that a company has, and how do we tie into those? So our data informs their decision-making process, and how do we take that data and help them with those decision-making process? What decisions did they make? What were those outcomes? What return on investment did they, achieve? Did they save time? Did they save, were there more efficiencies? Were they able to reduce the number of employees they would normally have to hire to identify that same data? So there's multiple aspects to what I define as value for our customer, and then being able to highlight that when we are having those renewal discussions. So I refer to these as success stories. And, I would say that is one of the biggest things that I brought to this acquisition, and has been enforced, and is beneficial to every department at the company, because then marketing can leverage it.
Yeah.
For new business, right? And we can then, we can use it for case studies. There's multiple benefits to these value stories.
Yeah, so these value stories, these success stories, they have a lot of reference points in there for the client. But how do you measure the success overall of your strategy? Is it these individual value points for each customer, or is it the revenue? What means success?
So yes, value stories drive renewals. Renewals to me, and net revenue retention define success to me, because there's multiple things. Like I KPI our CS department on GRR and NRR, so separately, right? GRR and then upsells.
Can you let me know what GRR and NRR are?
Yes, gross revenue retention and net revenue retention.
Perfect,
but if we were gross revenue retention being the existing business and ensuring that that gets renewed, and then above and beyond that, what's the upsell potential with our existing customer base that has led to that ultimate NRR. So that's GRR and NRR, and then value stories. I do look at those value stories as almost like money, because we can put them in marketing decks. We can quote, even if we can't use the logo or the specific, individual's quote, we can reference that it's a, chief revenue officer for one of our customers, right, in a particular industry. Being able to, what I also consider success is business reviews, and making sure that they're being done, because there is just so much power in those business reviews if people can understand the value that they're getting in having them. So from a department standpoint, I have a lot of internal projects that I'm always like working on, but from an IC standpoint, what they should be always driving towards is those business reviews, are those value stories, and then ultimately helping drive high GRR, high NRR.
That makes total sense. All this sounds really well and good, but I'm sure there's some pain points that you run into. What kind of things do inhibit you from having success?
Yeah, some of it's about, you're only as good as your team. So I've done a lot of training on how to get the team to be better at asking discovery questions, making sure we have really set good, strong objectives and goals. And some of that comes from the sales rep that sold into this customer, and making sure we've got that right information. But if we don't, it's being better, asking those discovery questions so we really know what we're trying to achieve in partnership with our customer. And then being able to extract what those success stories are. So I kind of see this as the consultative nature of what a CSM is doing. It's like, how do you become a trusted partner? And teaching your team to do that, how to not be afraid to challenge your customer, because you ultimately want them to succeed and ultimately want them to renew. But that doesn't always mean that you're the yes person in every conversation you have with your customers. So really coaching and mentoring my employees to be the best CSMs possible.
That makes sense when you're trying to make your team better. But how do you get buy-in from the C-suite and the people that control the budget?
Having good GRR numbers is usually a very good thing. Like, oh, we've had 90% renewal retention quarter over quarter in the downturn in the economy. That's a lovely thing for a C-suite team to hear.
Mm-hmm.
I would say health scores, being able to articulate, look at the health of our customers and how they align with our retention rate, our renewal rates. Look at the upsell opportunities that we've been able to flag. So being able to look at the number of upsell signals that we've been able to capture and how many of them have actually turned into true new business for us. I think those usually are the driving factors for any C-suite when it comes to the customer success team.
Yeah, the proof is in the pudding, right? You're doing it right if you're making more money.
Well,
Yeah.
sorry. And one last thing is customer stories, being able to get customers to agree to evangelize and showcase our solution on our behalf. So, they always say one negative, comment spreads, but a positive comment, everyone always thinks of the negative. So it's one, keeping all our customers happy, but also then having all of them evangelize our product and selling it for itself. Like it sells itself is ultimately what we all want.
I want to talk about that a little bit more. Do you have a specific example of where you've used customer feedback, whether it's in one of these success stories or in another aspect, to provide value to the company?
Yeah, I mean, so a couple things. Just establishing the concept of success stories and linking it. We document it in Salesforce. We also have like a Slack channel that provides an alert of success stories. So across departments, especially when it comes to product marketing, and then product marketing, and then the rest of the marketing department, being able to extract some of those and pepper them in various messaging that we provide. And then our account executives, so our sales reps and our BDRs, leverage it when they're prospecting, leverage it when they're discussing with existing customers that might be similar to, prospects that might be similar to customers that we have, being able to showcase that success story, and then, be able to say, hey, look, a customer like you, was able to get this kind of success using our platform.
That's awesome. Yeah, I use those all the time in our marketing. I love case studies and success stories. What do you think is the future of customer success?
It's interesting. Well, the global economy is not amazing at the moment. I think we can all agree to that. And I would say right now, even more so than, in previous years, retention is like a primary focus and discussion point right now, because we're not in growth mode with most software companies. We're trying to just retain what we have. And so I think right now the customer success team is being much more appreciated, and people are spending, and they have the stage, which my philosophy on CS, and always has been, companies that really value their CS team have happy customers. Companies that don't tend to have a mixed bag of the customers have a mixed bag of experience. And I also tend to notice that retention is not necessarily always as high as it could be, given that that's not the focus. Like the customer experience really should be the ultimate focus, especially when we're in a subscription-based model where you're counting on that renewal as part of your business model. Right now, it's not so much about the growth in the new business as it is about retaining customers. And I think that I'm excited about companies spending more resources in the department. I know there's a lot of amazing CS solutions out there. I've used some of them, but there's more than even what I've used. And I'm excited to see where those companies go.
Yeah, these platforms that are coming out now are amazing. We get to use a handful of them, and they're just great. They make life a lot easier. What else should we know about you?
I'm a very passionate person. I would say anyone who's worked with me would say that you can tell that I'm very passionate about customers. I'm also very passionate about their experience, and I'm always putting myself in their shoes. I'm an incredibly good coach, mentor. I care about my employees. I would put myself in front of them. Like I always tell them, I'm like, if there was a fire, I'd put myself in front of, you for that. That's very much my approach in terms of running my team, and how I treat my employees. I'm a doer. I like to get things done. I'm pretty efficient. I'm a single mom of a 5-year-old, so time is of the essence.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely take the time for people that I really believe in, and I make sure that I take that time for those customers as well.
That's great. How can we get in contact with you, and how can we follow your career?
I think LinkedIn would probably be the best way. You can, I mean, yeah, I think LinkedIn would probably be the best way to reach out to me. I would say, you can always reach out to me via SensorTower, but as in most software companies, my advice to everyone is never overstay your welcome. So usually I would say like that 5-year mark is probably the tenured, place where you should start looking for other opportunities to anyone at any level. But I'm at that 3 years, so it's safe to presume LinkedIn would be the best way to get a hold of
Yeah,
me.
absolutely. I know that's how I got in contact with you. Well, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, and until we chat again.
Sounds good.